Welcome back, guys. Today we are reviewing the 2023 Toyota Highlander Limited all-wheel drive. This is a 3-row mid-size SUV from Toyota with an MSRP just under $49,000 as spec'd. That puts it right in line with competitors like the Mazda CX-9 and Honda Pilot, as well as the Mazda CX-90, although that car will be a little bit more expensive for an equivalent trim level. Now we're starting this video off inside the car because it is quite windy outside, but I will show you a walk around of the vehicle. The Highlander in non-hybrid trim is powered by a 2.4-liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder engine. It makes 265 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. This SUV weighs around 4,500 pounds with a 4-cylinder engine and all-wheel drive. It has an 8-speed automatic torque converter transmission, and in limited all-wheel drive trim, it comes with Toyota's full suite of driving aids, including radar cruise control, lane departure warning, lane tracing assist, which is a feature, by the way, that the CX-9 I drove didn't have, pre-collision warning that will automatically brake the vehicle when it detects an impending collision or a pedestrian. This model comes standard with a 12.3-inch infotainment display, heated and cooled seats, a wireless charger for your phone, a standard USB Type-A port, as well as 2 USB Type-C ports. Love to see that. As for drive modes, we have normal, eco, and sport. We can also put this thing into rock and dirt mode, as well as mud and sand mode. We have hill descent assist, a snow mode, center console here, plenty of storage. Although I must say I still do greatly prefer, actually, Mazda's interior design language. This to me looks like it won't age quite as gracefully. It's a little bit overstyled. Now, let's take this thing for a drive. We are driving in eco mode because that's the mode that the vast majority of Highlander owners will be driving their cars in the vast majority of the time. The limited all-wheel drive Highlander does have a towing capacity of 5,000 pounds, which is actually pretty good. It's a lot more, 1,500 pounds more, in fact, than the Mazda CX-9 has at just 3,500 pounds. It's especially relevant for me because with a 5,000 pound towing capacity, I can actually tow a track vehicle, say a Subaru BRZ that weighs somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 pounds, while also accounting for a roughly 1,500 pound trailer. So I have been living with this Highlander for the past week, and I have to say it's a very comfortable SUV to drive. The suspension is very soft, it's very plush, very low NVH levels. All the inputs have a very soft, kind of mushy feel to them. The steering, the brakes, the throttle. This is not a driver's SUV by any means. The Highlander's focus is comfort, practicality, and ease of use. But I must say, I am a little bit disappointed in the way this car handles. It is actually a bit of a lumbering beast at times, and that's not because it's heavy at 4,500 pounds. That's roughly the same weight as its competitors, but at least compared to the CX-9, which is my primary point of reference in this segment, the Highlander has a much sloppier overall driving feel. When we're driving on the freeway above 60 miles an hour, going over large expansion joints and bumps and dips in the road, the rear suspension of this vehicle does this multiple oscillation pogo stick thing, which I'm really just not a fan of. It feels very underdamped. The CX-9 just felt a lot more controlled and well composed without giving hardly anything in the way of overall ride comfort. The Highlander might be a tad more comfortable for passengers, but I think that comes down more to the fact that this has more overall interior room. Despite the exterior dimensions of this vehicle being roughly the same as the CX-9, you have more space in the third row and more cargo capacity as well. And that's actually evident just by the way this vehicle looks on the outside. The overall dimensions and the shape show that this vehicle is perhaps a bit less concerned with having a sleek design on the exterior, but rather wants to make sure it utilizes every little bit of space that it has. I mean, come on, this is an SUV from Toyota, the most practical, sensible, economical car manufacturer in the world, as perceived by most people. But is the Highlander practical and sensible to a fault? I guess that's for you to decide, but I think it actually strikes a good balance between design and overall sensibility. Ultimately, for a 3-row SUV, most people are deprioritizing driving dynamics in favor of interior comfort, cargo capacity, technology, and so forth. And I think that's where the Highlander does a really great job and is a cut above a vehicle like the CX-9. The Highlander is rated at 21 mpg in the city, 28 on the highway, or about 24 in mixed driving conditions. Over the last 5 days or so, I've averaged 23.2 mpg. That's decent, but definitely not class leading and only marginally better than the rather inefficient 2.5 liter turbo in the CX-9. Although this does make significantly more power, at least on paper, 265 horsepower versus the CX-9's 227. But I have to say, despite that difference in power on paper, this engine doesn't feel as responsive and torquey down low. I think the way that 2.5 in the CX-9 is tuned gives it a tremendous amount of low-end torque and response off the line, which this doesn't quite have. That said, this is certainly not a sluggish vehicle in a straight line. It has just enough power, in my opinion, for a 3-row SUV. The 8-speed transmission is also very good. The shifts are very smooth, quick enough, really nothing to complain about, and it's definitely better than the 6-speed in the current generation of Mazda products. We have engine start-stop, which is very easy to use. You simply press the brake pedal down a little bit further once you see the indicator on the dash. It seamlessly comes back to life. This limited trim level also comes with an 11-speaker JBL sound system. I've been using it the past 5 days or so, and it sounds great. It's more than enough for my needs. We have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It works overall pretty well, but for some reason I had this problem in both this Highlander and the Sequoia that I tested a while back. It doesn't always connect when I use my USB Type-C cable, and sometimes it doesn't actually charge my phone. I don't know if that's an issue with my cable or not, but something I thought that I'd share and a problem I didn't have in any of the Mazdas I reviewed. I'm using a Pixel 6, by the way. All right, if we put this thing into manual mode, hell, we'll even throw it into sport mode here. Downshift into second. Let's get over this speed bump first. Downshift into first. Oops, wrong way. Yeah, this thing has totally reasonable acceleration. Put it back into eco. I really don't think any reasonable person would complain about the straight line performance here. 0 to 60 in just over 7 seconds, more than adequate for this type of vehicle. Back to interior design for a moment. Really not a fan of piano black, and this car has a ton of it. I mean, look at this infotainment display and the surrounding buttons. Everything pretty much is in piano black. Interestingly, the center console barely has any piano black at all, only this little panel for the Prindle indicators, but this is definitely a big pet peeve of mine. We also have a 360 bird's eye camera, which I find very helpful when parking, and I have played quite a bit with the driving assists, and I have mixed feelings about it. I think the lane departure warning works fine. It does a great job at alerting me when I'm about to veer off into another lane. The lane tracing assist, however, which is essentially lane centering, is not that great. It's not that advanced feeling, and overall when I was using it, I felt just on edge the whole time. I had to kind of hover over the steering wheel very closely with my hands. The radar cruise control thankfully does work fine. It has 3 different settings for how closely you want the car to follow the next car in front of you. Strangely enough, this vehicle is missing a heads-up display. I'm not sure if that's offered in the higher trim levels, but for a limited trim level, this is almost maxed out. The entire dash is a digital display. You can toggle through a few different screens. Again, this just feels like it's a tad overstyled and won't look that great in, say, 5 to 10 years' time. The seats are very comfortable, very little side bolstering, but honestly, that's what you want for easy ingress and egress. I have no problems driving this car on long journeys. I mean, look guys, the Highlander has always been a sensible choice and it continues to be that. It's practical, it's relatively efficient, it's gonna be reliable, it's a Toyota. It makes good power now with this 2.4 liter turbocharged engine. I really have so few complaints, and yet I don't see myself owning one personally. As an enthusiast, I like my vehicles to just stand out a little bit more. The Highlander, you see tons of them on the road, and for good reason. They're just a great all-around daily driver, but visually speaking, in terms of interior, in terms of powertrain options, the CX-90 speaks to me a lot more, as do the offerings from Hyundai and Kia in the form of the Telluride and the Palisade. Obviously, that doesn't make the Highlander a bad choice. It's actually far from it. It is the most sensible choice for most people. Such timing. Speaking of Palisade. Now with that being said guys, let me know what you think of the Highlander. Are there any reasons outside of sensibility that would make you choose this over some of the other competitors in this segment? Thank you guys for watching. A big thank you to Toyota for providing this Highlander Limited all-wheel drive for a review, and I'll see you all in the next one.